And that did that create demand for your work thereafter?
No, it was a bit early in the
Okay.
bit early in the years. Yeah, I didn't really begin getting a demand for my work until I moved to Canada. Really, in '71. By then, I really went into it seriously. I went 5 years in the. I was in several exhibitions in the late 50s and early 60s with my work, competitive exhibitions, and in the Syracuse, was in the Syracuse National, now the Syracuse International, was the biggest exhibition and competition in the U.S. for years and years, and I was in that in the early 60s and late 60s, 4 or 5 different times. And there were these competitions all around the country that you could enter, and I entered a lot of those, but wasn't making a lot of pottery. I did get invitations, the University of Illinois invitation to be in a big invitational exhibition that they were having, and several pieces in that, and in another big traveling exhibition that went around. So I was making pottery, but not lots. I was teaching. I had 3 young children and family, and things take up time.
Yes.
And then I left the school that I was teaching in, private school, Oakwoods, and moved to a little village in upstate New York that offered me a job and had a fabulous little school system. And never got a studio built, didn't have a play studio to work in at home for about 3 or 4 years. And so I was doing a little bit of ceramics, and I had a kiln at the school, one of the schools I was teaching in, and I did some work there, but not a lot. And so then I began producing and exhibiting more once I got my own studio set up, and was in some pretty big invitational exhibitions, and in some other competitive ones. But I was doing those 4 or 5 years without a studio. I was doing wood sculpture and including some later things, the painted plywood sculptures quite large, 4 and 5 feet high, and doing collage, paper on canvas. Late fall, winter of 1971, I saw this ad in Saturday Review magazine, Saturday Review of Literature, remember? That magazine, that I had a subscription to, and there was in it kind of a double-page spread of a tourism ad for the Atlantic provinces of Canada. And I thought, gee, they sound nice. I'd never been here. And I had been to Gananoque across the Lake Ontario when I lived up outside of Watertown, and I had been up to see my friend and that spring I actually went to a big National Ceramic Conference, the U.S. NCAA, NCC, I want to get it mixed up with the football thing, NCCA, National Ceramic Education Association or something. And they held that annually. It was becoming international, and I went to that in April. But in that meanwhile, during the winter, I wrote to all of the departments of education here in the Maritimes, and and sent CVs to them and to the superintendents of all the major centers. And I ended up getting 6 job offers. That time, when I finally took a job, I was the only public school art teacher with a master's degree of fine arts. And so I was, I guess, a prize to some of them. And I enjoyed teaching. And I had made contact with people both through a Quaker monthly meeting that I was associated with, and they knew people in Halifax and down in Sackville and a variety of places, and And then the art director from Fredericton wrote to me and had two people, one of his teachers and her husband, writing me letters. And all the letters I got from Fredericton were all very positive. And I said, okay, I'll go there. Sight unseen I did, and arrived in Canada on June 30th of 71. The next day was Canada Day, although I didn't know that. This woman who had been writing put us up for the night, and we stored all of our belongings in a barn that they had, and we took off the next morning to discover New Brunswick. And went down and got stopped by the parade and on the day, and there was pipe band. Love pipe band, a marching pipe band, and a big one. And, oh boy. I said, well, wait, do you think they're doing that just because we came? I taught in high school for 2 years, and I was in a man in Moncton was organizing a show of New Brunswick potters for the spring of 72, that would have been. And he had got my name, and there were about 6 of us, and we had this exhibition, but I forgot. In the fall, while I was teaching at the University of New Brunswick at their art center, they knew of me, and they invited me along with 11 other craftspeople to have a exhibition of 12 craftspeople, 12 pieces each, and just before Christmas. And so I had 12 pieces that I had brought with me from down the States. And they were very different from what other people were doing, and that got a lot of recognition around Fredericton anyhow, and some good articles and some great purchases of people. It was a sale, and the best known potter in the province bought the first piece of mine that sold right before, actually, as soon as the doors opened. And the director of the Beaverbrook Gallery bought the second piece that was sold, and the university bought the third piece that was sold. So, and that rust piece over there.
Which one?
That rust one on the floor over there.
Yeah.
Was one of 2 that were in a big exhibition at Oneonta State College when they opened a new art center, The Arts, a multi-art center, and they had an invitational exhibition in which I had 2 pieces, and one of them, the 2, was that piece, and this was in that first show in Fredericton. And I decided to keep that one, and the university bought the other one. They had to send them back to me because this exhibition went on from May, when I took them down to Oneonta. Oneonta was only about an hour from where I was living in New York. And but I said, but you'll have to send them to Canada to get back. That was fine with them. And so late September, I got them at my door in Fredericton.
So how did you come to be down here in the coastal area?
Well, after I was teaching, and then I got a job at the university in the fall of '73, and was their whole art education department. And I was producing a lot of pottery, both at home and in the studio that I set up at the university, and exhibiting all over Canada, really, and particularly Eastern Canada. In those years, I guess, through the '70s. And took a sabbatical leave, 79, 80, and worked at a brickyard about an hour from Fredericton, where they were extruding not only bricks through extruders, but in the big machine, but extruding chimney flue liners, these squares and rectangles and things, and I made And that's what I worked. I worked right off the line where they are extruding them, and they would cut them into 2-foot lengths, and then they'd put them on a dolly and I was 6 feet away from the line, and I would do something to them. I would manipulate these things into sculpture. Some of them later got joined together in parts.
Were they ceramic or
They were clay? Yeah,
they were
clay chimney
okay.
flue liners, and most of them were 8 by 12 inches, and they cut them all in 2-foot lengths for firing. And so I was essentially thought of myself as just interrupting their whole manufacturing process, and just hauling them out of the line for a bit, and then putting them back on the carts, and they would fire them.
Doing something to them.
Yeah, doing something
this
to
is a
them.
version of when you were a kid and didn't like those houses that were identical.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. And I had been playing around with round things, tube-like things, the year or so before, in my studio at the university, as sculptures, and now I was able to then expand on that and make giants, huge ones. So these were 6 feet high and more, and where they were joined, some of them I would saw at angles so they could be joined like this, and others I would beating with a 2x4 and so forth, and then these were joined together with some heavy industrial epoxies, things that they put bridge sections together with, concrete bridge sections and things. And I had several exhibitions with those. So my name was certainly getting out in New Brunswick and in Eastern Canada. A big exhibition at the Owens Gallery at University down in Sackville, Mount Allison, at the Owens Gallery, and they had an exhibition of 3 sculptors, and it was myself and Sister Marie Elaine. Have you ever heard of this Catholic nun who's a sculptor?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Incredible stone sculptor. An incredible woman.
Stone sculptor meaning she chisels...
Carved stone.
Carved stone,
yes,
yep.
And goes to the quarries in Italy and so forth, and her order has built her a great huge studio about close to 20 years ago now. She was just working out. She was teaching art in public schools and carving. And in front of the Beaverbrook Gallery, a beautiful abstract carving of hers. And then I still see her occasionally. She has a small exhibition down here anyhow. So she was one of the other sculptors, and the other one was a man by the name of Claude Roussel, who was one of New Brunswick's early contemporary sculptors who gained recognition. And he's a man my age, so is Marie-Hélène. We're all roughly the same age, close, late 60s, early 70s. And so we both had our own each had our separate gallery down there. So that was quite a
down
coup.
at Mount Allison?
At Mount Allison,
Yep.
And that was quite an early coup for the sculptural. I mean, I had sculpture exhibits, and I had one-man shows before that. I remember dreaming when I was teaching in public schools of New York State, in this little village of West Winfield. I remember thinking one day, because I was entering competitions for sculpture and pottery then in the late 60s. One day I thought to myself, one of these years I'm going to have a one-man show. And then I think back on that. I mean, I was no youngster then. I was mid-30s. I was 38 when I moved to Canada. So.